Okay, good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, wherever you're from. It's been a while since I've done one of these, and I'm actually recovering from being sick, so my voice is a little messed up right now. But today, as you can see here, we're looking at isometrics, and this is just a quick tutorial on how to get started, how to get your project set up for isometric design, and also how to um, do all the initial calculations that are needed to have isometric in your game. So, first thing I want to look at is why isometric. In the old games that were point and click games, we used to be able to see a lot of artwork that was in perspective. And the perspective gave a great view where the character will get smaller the further he went back, and he would come forward, he get larger. Um, but it was kind of limited. And so, like, for that area, he would come up from this side of the village and he'd head back into the background. And the backgrounds are very limited in their size and their scale. Um, More recently, so here's some other examples. This is a game called Apprentice, which very good game. Um, so more recently, I've been looking more into isometric because with isometric, you don't have to worry about that limitation of scale. So, for instance, here's an isometric view of somewhere. The thing is, the scale is the same no matter where you go or how deep or how close you are. If I was to look at this image here and consider being in this part of the courtyard, so we're going to zoom the camera in on this and let's grab down here. So if this is what the camera sees and your character is walking around in the area, no matter where they move, the character is always going to be the same size on the screen. And this makes it a lot easier where you don't have to worry about the scaling factors or anything like that. Isometric does come with its own problems. So, for instance, it's a 2D image that we're looking at. We're not using a 3D game. And in a 2D image, how do you sort what goes behind and what goes in front of things? For instance, if that person went behind this tree, how would we do a sorting on that? Or when they're walking up the stairs, putting them behind the pillars, um, or putting them in front of other people. So, how do you do that sorting? We'll look into that as well. And that usually has its own difficulties as well. But for now, let's look at what I plan to achieve today. I want to do a small kind of a park, I guess you could say. And if I'm looking at overhead, I want to be able to have a small parking lot. So let's say we've got a parking lot at the top of the area. And I want to be able to sort of wind down some sort of ramp. So it's an elevated parking lot. And we're going to head down a ramp and get to the area. So this is going to help us not only look at how to do the isometrics, but also the how to do height differences and stuff. I want to put a tree in here somewhere. I'm going to have some bushes, which are going to be along the wall. Let's extend this out some more. And let's get some cars in here. And some more bushes coming down here. Just some bushes in general. Alright, so character will start here. They will open this area. They will be able to walk down here, walk down here, walk down here, and get to a main area at the bottom. This is what I want to achieve, and let's look into what kind of resources we're going to need for it. The first thing is I'm using an isometric grid, which is going to be a 2x1 grid, which means that if I just rough it out, the height is 1 to the width of 2. And I've already prepared a grid like that in Illustrator, which I use in a lot of projects. And don't ask why I didn't use a proper kind of numbering, but this is an 18 by 18 grid. And if I look upwards, so I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 18 isometric grid units going up, and that's an important number to remember. So let's just get out of here. And let's look at what we need to be doing in Unity. So here I've got a scene set up in Unity. This is just an isometric grid I brought in for fun from sellswordmaps.com. There's tons of isometric maps you can find online. Let's grab that guy and hide him. All right. Main things I'm going to be looking at are the characters and the camera. For the characters, the size of your character on screen and how big your canvas is going to be, I'm considering this as 1920 by 1080 canvas. There are some awesome tutorials that you should look up if you go to Adam C. Eunice's website. Specifically these two here, what is the right canvas size and the importance of character scale. So my character is about 15-16% of the screen size, and the camera here is set to where is it? Lens ortho size 10. Now what does this mean? This means that if I look at my grid, where's my grid? Where's my grid? If I count vertically, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 grid units tall. In reality, it's actually 20 because that's just 10 from there upwards. If I put in an isometric grid from Unity, 2D, tile map, isometric, their grid is very small. So this is considered as 1 unit size. I want the height to be 1 unit size. So I need double that. And that's kind of like where I want the player to be on one of these tiles. So that's the right size. That there will give me 10 units tall, which is 20 units tall. And if we think about this, my screen size is 1080 tall. So how tall are each of these? It's a simple calculation. Just 1080 divided by 20. So each of those is going to be 54 pixels tall. That's one of our first calculations we need to do. Let's go into Photoshop now. And see why that calculation is important. All right, I'm going to open my isometric grid. There. Was that the right one? I have two of them. One that... Just make sure this is the right one. And there we go. Okay, so when I'm importing this grid, it wants to know what size it wants to import at. And that's the height that I want to look at now. If I did 1920, 1080, that won't be right because this is only 18 units tall. I do know that each unit is that calculated 54 that we had. So on that 54, all I have to do then is take 54, and I've got 18 grids. So I'm going to multiply that by 18, and 972 is that. This doesn't really matter. I'm still going to set it to 72, but it doesn't really matter because all computers use 72 dpi as their resolution. And that this is more of a print thing. All right, do we have everything? RGB. Okay, open. And just make sure, mode, RGB. Okay, good. So now we have the start of our template. I'm just going to fill in a white background for this. And now I just need a larger canvas size. Ooh. Actually, undo the fill. I'll do that after. Let's make this 3000 by 3000. There we go. Okay, the next thing that I'm going to want is I want to see what the camera is going to see at all times, and for that I have prepared HD view. I'm just going to grab this and drop it in here. All right, so this is 1920 by 1080, and this is going to show me what the camera is going to view. And there's a couple of important things that I want to say about designing your backgrounds when you're doing isometric views. One of the things is that in art, a lot of the times I always tell you step back and take a look at the whole thing just to see that the composition is good. In this is your composition. At 100 pixels, this is what I see on my screen. I will never see the entire background. So for me to do this just to check, oh, does it look good? I can do it to see how the layout looks and see how I'm filling the game area. But if I keep doing that and thinking of it that way, then the detailing, I might not put enough detail. I should always be looking at this level or even more zoomed in to make sure that my details are correct. There's no real composition, like rule of thirds or anything like that when you're doing a background in isometric, because what if I did rule of thirds for this area here? Well, when the character moves up here, I'm no longer in the thirds. I'm no longer in it down here. So composition is a different matter when it comes to creating backgrounds. All right, so the background that I had decided on was I wanted to do... where's my Leonardo? There we are. So I wanted to have this little parking lot. In isometric, I'm going to be looking at it from this direction, because that way I'll be able to see this side, I'll be able to see this side, and I'll be able to see the top. I don't really care about things over here or things over here. So that's the direction I'm going to be looking at for my project. All right, let's just get my desk all set up for this. Okay. All right, so at the top, I guess I'm high enough at the top. Actually, let's just put some folders in here. Sorry if there's pauses. Still coughing a little bit, so I need to pause every now and again to do that, and I don't want to do that in your ear. Okay, this was what? This is my HD, my view. That's my grid, and this is just white background. So the two of those go in there. The next thing I'm going to need, let's get back to Unity, and let's grab that character. Okay, so this character, I want his width to be, okay, he is 568 pixels wide. That makes him too tiny. Divide that now. Okay. 284. That's not right. Divide that again by 2. Okay, there he is. All right, so there he is. He's on his grid size. That's about what was in the game. So I think I should have about 6 of him on screen. So 1, 2, 5. Yeah, that's the right size of him. That's how I had him in Unity. All right. The reason why I'm going to bring him in is because I'm drawing things and I need a size reference. The grid is awesome. I can see a grid. Nice. It gives me no relevance to the character. The character should always be brought in, and I'm going to put him into my guides as the character. All right, so let's start with our parking lot. And I'm just going to sketch first, and then I'll do everything else later. My sketching brush is going to be a hard brush like this. Just bring down the opacity. And want a pixel size of 4. Okay. I do not need that. All right. So we'll start with the parking lot. And I want to bring this out a width of 2, and then it's going to slope downwards. And the downward slope, I want it to be, let's go down 1, 2, 3. This is why I have my grid. Oops. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. And I want the bottom of the grid to be probably around this area here. So I need to go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this is where the actual bottom of the ramp is going to be. If I join these up now, that's going to be the descent that he's going to be making. But what this gives me is it gives me a sheer vertical face, and I don't want anything like that to happen. I want, like, if that was a stone wall, that'd be great, but I want to make it more natural. So I'm going to pull that off of the wall to about maybe here, and that way if I redraw these lines now, let's get rid of this. All of these. And okay, that's now the slope that we have, and this is how the hillside's going to look. So I kind of have this gradient going on here. And it's going to get to the bottom, and I want it to flatten out and come around again. So again, I want to be able to step it back a bit. So we're coming over here. And once again, I gotta move my grid down. Whatever you do, never resize your image to squish anything or resize your grid. Always leave that grid the same. Back to my sketch. And I am going to be coming down. How much? I'll make some more gentle. So 1, 2, 3 maybe? 4? Yeah, 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're looking at here, but I'm going to pull it off again by 2 this time. So this is the area that I really want it to be. And let's do from there to there, there to there. And the rock wall this time will be from here to here, there to there. Okay, the thing I'm not liking about this is the fact that this is now a sheer rock face here. I don't want that. Oh, I know what I'm going to do with it. So what I'm going to do with this is, no, not view, grid. Let's move my grid back over here. Um, when we're at the top of the ramp here, like I need to be able to get up onto this parking lot. So the parking lot's not on this line here. I'm going to flatten this out. So flatten that out. I'll make it larger. And then it'll be along there. Okay, so I went down with this guy here. I went down 6. Let me just make sure of this. I'm going to call the top area 0. So 0. Then down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then I move it over 1, 2, 3. So this is -6. Then I think I went down 4 for the next one. Then move it across by 2. So 1, 2, 3, 4. That would have ended up here. Yes. So this area here, so if I made a grid here, that would be -6, -10. So I'm just trying to keep in check with my height. Oh, did I draw that in the wrong? Yes, I drew that in the wrong place. So that is never a good thing. Okay. So now I know that from the top, 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. This is the bottom here. So we're going to ask ourselves, how does the bottom of that correspond with this? Well, we'll just join them up. So they will meet here. So this slope is going from here to here. Yes. But then I do not want this to come straight down. Oh, I did that on the grid again. Let me just see. Okay, so as I was saying, I'll move this grid over. I do not want this to be a flat rock face either. I want a slight slope on it as well. So from here, let's go out. I think a 3-point would be good enough. So from there to there. So now this slope is sloped like that. And all we really need to do is just take these and round that off. And if I get rid of these harsh lines, then we can curve that around. Alright, so far so good. Let's do the rest of the ramp. Grab the grid, put it back over here. And that was a 4-drop sketch. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Came across 2, 1, 2. So from there to there. And from there to there. Is that right? No. No, it was from this point to this point that came across 2. But once again, I don't want to have... In fact, I'm not going to go as far as 2 this time. I'm going to just do 1. So from there to there, there to there. Okay. All right, so we have our basic sketch. So some of the things I want. I want to bring in some cars for the parking lot, and you can find a bunch of isometric cars online. Here's one of the problems, though. Let's find isometric car collection. Nice little cars, and let me just get rid of this background. And who do I want? I'm gonna grab this guy. All right, and here we have Timmy, because we needed a height reference for things. Timmy is bigger than the car. Where's the car? There it is. So, first things first. Let's just make the car bigger first things first. So, to Timmy. Timmy standing next to this car. Timmy should not be taller than the car. That's about the right height for a kid in a car. Okay, so that path that looked really large and that height drop that looked really high, it's not that much in comparison. In fact, if we take Timmy, Timmy can come out here. See, this is a one-person path. Timmy can walk down the path alone. It's not for two people to walk on. It's a very thin, narrow path. For kids only, I guess. Okay, now here's the problem with downloading things, and this is why that I have that Illustrator file for an isometric grid. Usually when I go to find isometric grids, um, there's always some sort of small, minute problem with the grid. Either it doesn't tell perfectly, or it's not a perfect 2-to-1 grid, or it's not perfectly skewed, or how should I say it? It's not horizontal, like it's a little rotated. So it's quite a few things that are usually wrong with the grid. If I take this grid now and I pull this up to this car, you'll see the same thing happens when a lot of people design and call something isometric. Yes, it's isometric in that there's no perspective, but is it following a specific grid? It might be following whatever grid they use, but it's not following the 2-to-1 grid. So normally I'd have to just take something and just play with it a little bit. So let's just try to get it onto the grid. Okay, that looks good in that direction. And now all right, I think that's good enough. All right, so here we have our car. Good. And this is just a rough car. You're going to draw over it and put in your own cars or whatever. As you can see, it's very pixelized, so it's not the car that you're going to be using. Okay, if we were to take this straight into our software now, let's take that out, move this, move that. Okay, I'm going to add in a tree because I want to show you about layering. So I'll first need a new layer. And let's just put it maybe here. Small tree. Let's fill some color. tree. Okay, as you're working, what you want to do is you want to build up a library of these things like trees, bushes, the cars, things that you can reuse multiple times because as much as I have this tree in this scene, I could put a tree here and I'm going to put, let's duplicate the tree and put it over here as well. And I'm going to duplicate it and put it down here or overlap things a bit, put it here. So I've got these 3 trees, and what I do want to do is I do want to save this entire scene. So we're going to save this as sort of a guide scene. And I just made this a JPEG, and I'm just going to call this BG guide. But then anything that I can actually walk in front of or behind of, I want to start to separate these things. So, for instance, the car is one of those things. The tree is one of those things. Now, the background, there's nowhere on this background that I will be behind. So I'll always be in front. So anything that you will always be in front of, you're going to put that in here under as a flattened image. So I can save this as oh wait, I'm going to save this as BG. Is that a good one? Yeah, save. Okay, and now for the tree, I want to grab the tree and I'm going to crop the tree. So select pixels, image crop. I do not need the white background, I need a transparent background. File, save as. I'll call this tree 2 because I already have a tree over there. And I'm going to undo that cropping. And now I want the car. Now I'm not going to use this car, and there's a very specific reason that you'll get to see. Okay, so click on that, and I want to crop. Move the white background. File, save as. PNG. Car. Always remember to remove that crop. Okay, so let's go back to Unity and let's start to see how we're going to piece these things back together. Get my mouse back here. Right, okay. So if I look into my sprites, I've got my background guide, which I'm going to drag in here. And it looks small. This, I've done a tutorial before on understanding our pixels and how large our pixels should be. Is this actually... Let me just see. Turn on that, our sketch, and our view. Okay, so our view should only be seeing... View. From the corner up here, and the middle should be hitting that corner there. Where is it? So that's there. What was that calculation we did before? 54. Where is our guide? So if I type 54 in here and apply, something's wrong here. I've got that at the center of the camera there, but it's not in the center over here. What's going on with the camera? Oh, sorry. I want that. Okay, so as we had seen before, that should be going off the screen. That's at the corner of the screen, while that piece was almost at the center there. Is 54 the right, or is it just 50? Nope, 54. Stay to our calculations. So that being calculated, everything that we bring in now should be using that same calculation, that 54. So what I want to do is I want to grab the car, the tree 2, and what else was there? Sorry, 2 things. Yep. Make them 54 as well. And apply. And now I can... Oh, and also BG. 54. Apply. And the background... Let's reset this. This background is the actual real background. If I remove the guide, that's the background I want to use. So I just have the guide there to help me place my tree. So the tree is going to go where the tree is on the background, and when I hide the background guide, I'm just left with the background and the tree elements all put into the right place. Now, how are we going to do these layering? How are we going to do the layering? Here we've got Timmy, and he can walk, but how is he sorting with the tree? So in Unity, I also did another tutorial on this. We're going to look at our order and layer, and I've got him at 2. So the tree has to be on the same layer of 2. And now if he goes behind the tree, they're on the same layer, but right now his pivot is at his feet, and I want to do the same with the tree, where I want to put the pivot, so anything that's touching the ground is where the pivot should be. So the pivot for this should be down here, and that's tree 2. Just grab that pivot and move it down. Apply. Okay, and we want to do the sorting by that pivot. So what this is saying is it's saying that anything higher than this pivot on the same layer is going to be behind. Anything lower than this pivot is going to be in front. So if I take Timmy now, and he's now behind, you can see he's hidden. And if he comes down past that layer, he's now in front. So if I do it through here, you can see where that pivot point is. So that's how the sorting's done in the software. So if I brought the next tree in, so the tree's already been set up. If I just drag this tree in, put it there, and I tell it the same thing, that it's on 2, and sorting by the pivot, immediately he's behind it, but we can see that this tree is in front of that tree. If I move this upwards, you can see this, the sorting of the trees change. So that's how we're going to do our in front and behind. Now we have a problem with this car. Car. So it's figuring out where I want to make sure that things are in front and behind. I'm going to put the pivot point about here. If I'm higher than this point, I'm behind the car. So I've come up here and I'm walking behind the car. If I'm lower than this point, I'm in front of the car. That works perfectly. Here's one of those drawbacks when we're using isometrics, is that when we're looking at something that has a rectangular shape, that's going to break things a little bit, because let's just do it and find out. Let's take our car, put the car up here, set him to 2, and pivot. And where that car was. Let's just hide our background guide. And let's take Timmy now. And here he's in front. Perfect. I get up above that sorting area and I'm now behind the car. That works perfectly. But when I'm coming back down the next side, remember the sorting point is about here. So cut that straight across to about here. I should be behind for a good amount of time until, bam. So rectangular shapes are always going to be a problem. That's why if I'm doing something like a car, I'm always going to pair cars up. So I've got one here where I did some sketching of cars. Let's just take this car, delete it, and grab cars plural, 2 by their pivot point. And did I set the pivot point? So they are, here's the front bumper, here's the bumper where everything goes behind, and if I move that across now to here, that's the front of this car. So that's perfect there, because I've just made that sorting that when he gets around the front of the car and he gets below that point, he's in front of the car, which that's perfect. You don't want him to walk between the cars, so you never allow him to get in between those cars. So if I grab him now, he's on 2, they're on 2. Oh, right. See, I don't want him here. I don't want him in between the cars. So if he walks up here, he's behind this car. He's behind that car. Comes around to the front. He's behind the car, which is all perfect, until he gets around here. And now he's in front of the car. And he's in front of this car. So the illusion works. Just don't let him go in between, because we see that happens there. But he can walk around here and then behind this car. So trying to fix that is always a pain. Um, it's always good to have square things than rectangular things. Um, or you could split the actual object into two pieces and then meld them back together in Unity. So you'd have the top of the car and the bottom of the car as two separate pieces with two different sorting points. One would be here. Let me get the other car. So one sorting point would be here, and the other sorting point will be here, or the pivot point. And then you can cut the car in half and it'd work. Okay, so I guess that's about the basic of things. Like I said, you don't ever want to be zoomed all the way out unless you're looking at the big picture. If you're zooming out to see how the composition looks, there's no real composition. The view that you're actually seeing is this view here. So you want to be at, where is it? 100%. And zoom in more. So most of your detailing is going to be done at like 200% or something. Also, I would recommend that you are going to either work with the right pixel size. This here is 1920 by 1080. So if I want to select this, it will tell me close enough, 1920 by 1080. That's what you're seeing on your screen. You want to design at that resolution. If I design this at image size, let's say this is 6,000. All right. So now what I'm seeing, this view area is 3,000 something by 2,000 something. That's useless. Right now I have a lot of pixels so I can get a lot of detail in. I'm never going to see that detail. This view is never going to zoom in. If you do want to do a zoom in kind of feature on your game, then yes, you will have to make your backgrounds a little bit bigger to accommodate for the zoom in. Because if I did take the camera and pull it inwards, then I should start to see pixelizations and stuff. So you would have to account for that and do your math based on that. But usually what I do is I'm not going to do anything like that. So I want to keep this at the right pixel size. The main reason for that is that why do pixels that you're never going to use? It's going to make your game larger. It's going to make the files larger, make the game larger. You don't want that. The last thing before I go is that when I am working in this with the right pixel size, so I should go back to the right pixel size. I also want to make sure of one thing. This width and this height have to be multiples of 4. This is, I'm not sure if it's just a Unity thing or if it's just a graphics thing, but usually you want to have things in multiples of 2. Multiples of 2s compress better than weird multiples. But for Unity does like to have things in multiples of 4. If I was to change this, let's say I added our file image. Say this was 3001. File save. Okay, there's my background. Okay. So I was forcing that image to have a maximum size of 2048. So if I did that, 2048, which is a multiple of 4, but that's not the maximum size, which means I'm not getting all of my pixels out of it. If I wanted to get all my pixels, the full 3000 pixels, I have to go up to a bigger max size. And if I do this, that's the next one that can fit. Apply. Now you can see those lines are now nice and crisp because I'm getting my full 3000. But it's not 3000, it's 3001, which is not a multiple of 4. If I went back on that and save it, $3,000 is a multiple of 4. Now that error goes away. And you can actually see a huge reduction in your image compression when Unity goes to compress the image at runtime, not runtime, when it's compiling the entire document. You can see a huge reduction in your image size using their compression. All right, so that is it for this entire session. Hopefully that explains a couple things on how I go about dealing with different heights. Actually, let's just see how this plays out before I go. I'm using a system called NavMesh, not NavMesh, PolyNav. It is a paid plugin, but it's very worth it. It's very easy to use. So on the background, okay, I'm going to add the PolyNav map, and it pulls in a polygon collider, 2D, which I need to find. Where are you? Oh, right, the points are at the corners. Here we go. All right, so the walkable area is what I am putting in here. So I want him to walk behind the car. And here's this path. And let's get some areas behind the trees. All right, so that's our walking area. I do not want him to walk behind the cars, so for the cars, I'm going to add on a obstacle. And that is a horrible polygon. Points. 1, 5. Okay, that looks like it should be good. And so our character already has his code on him, and this is going to allow us for point and clicking. Um, I think we've got enough here. And they're just follow characters. They're going to try to follow him. So they should actually be trying to navigate their way up the hill to him. All right. And hit play and see what we get. So that's the view that we were looking at. And if I walk behind the cars, okay, there is one little discrepancy. Background and reset. So here we see all the nice sorting going on. You can actually set up some scripts where, oh, they walk through the tree. I should have set the trees as obstacles like I did with the cars, because I can click inside the tree, and I should not be able to do that. So if I had those as obstacles, he'd figure a path around the obstacles. All right, and if I click at the top of the path, he'll follow his entire way up there. So I like that polynav. It was worth all the money. And right now, we see our characters are making their way to the top. Oops. Okay. So that is a very quick tutorial on doing the math for getting your isometric grid set up properly in Photoshop. Do not do extra detail. Do not create a file that's larger than you need. For instance, right now, if I did not need to see the top, so let's say where that box is, that's the cutoff point. I don't want to see anything higher than that. Then if I drew anything up here, that's a waste of pixels. Only draw what is going to show up in your game and at the right pixel size. All right, so that is it, and thank you for watching. Hope it was informative.